What's going on, you guys? I'm Dustin with Facilitech Southwest. I'm the field supervisor. Today I'm going to show you guys how to properly clean a vent hood from start to finish. So right now I'm going to show you guys our pre-job assessment. So follow me. Okay, so we have two hoods here. We have a smaller hood with an oven underneath it. This is every 6 months. So we're not touching this one. We're focused on the every 3 month today. So that's going to be this hood. As you can see, it's past due. It was due in February, so that's how we base it. And we report it back to our office. So this is our main hood. The way you can determine if it's a main hood, typically it's the biggest, it's the dirtiest, it has the most equipment underneath it. You also want to check for equipment and stuff like that. Right now you see there's pilots lit and stuff like that. You don't want to just blow these out and just let that gas keep coming out, because carbon monoxide is dangerous. You'll see that there's fire suppression systems, there's bars and stuff like that. You want to check and see if stuff is hot. There's more pilots right here. So we're gonna have to shut off gas for all of this. For this, we're gonna have to put wood. This is also a little bit warm. It could potentially burn plastic, so we're gonna put wood right there too. Right here, this is a freezer. You don't know if there's food inside this or not, so we're gonna cover all this. Same thing with this, cover all this. So we also have a third hood back here that we're not servicing today. It's on it every 6 months. So this is a prep hood. Generally, prep hoods are a lot smaller. They have a lot less equipment and they're a lot cleaner, as you can see here. All right, you guys, so now that we determined what hood we're gonna clean, we're gonna go back over there to the main hood. We're gonna show you guys how to protect everything, wrap everything, and prevent any type of damages. Okay, so this is our main bucket. We use 55-gallon trash cans to basically carry all our essential tools into restaurants. It really helps us when we do big hotels and stuff like that, so we can move a lot of stuff real fast. So typically we have a roll of plastic, we have a tool bag. The tool bag consists of things like scrapers, we have screwdrivers, scissors, a water gun, tape measure, you know, different fittings, and typically like a couple sets of pliers and some crescent wrenches. So just real basic tools, just enough for us to do our job. You don't want to try to carry too much stuff and end up weighing yourself down. It becomes, you know, hindering to you. All right, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these pilot lights shut off so they don't burn up our protective plastic that we're going to put over all the equipment. So there's different styles of pilots. There's a pilot that's right here where you can see. Then there's a pilot that you have to take off the grate, I guess, and it's underneath, in between, feeding two of them. So you want to make sure you burn that out. A lot of times guys won't see it, and then it'll burn plastic up and you have to rewrap hoods. It's not a good deal. All right, so now that we blew out all the pilots, I'm gonna turn off the main gas supply so it doesn't produce carbon monoxide and create a dangerous work environment. Pull this out, pull that out. All right, go back there and turn that off. It's a red valve. Okay. There we go. All right, so now that we got the gas shut off, we're gonna start covering everything. We want a protective layer before we start getting on top of equipment and stuff like that. You don't want to damage their stuff or, you know, put your dirty boots all over all their nice equipment and stuff. It's just not right. But all this is just a 2-inch flex spatula. This is our #1 tool that we use every single day. Like, typically what we'll do is each van will have a couple of them, and then our supervisors will also have a couple of them, just in case, because you'll break them or lose them and stuff like that. But very, 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 very valuable to keep with you. Whenever you're covering up your equipment, you want to pour a little bit longer than what you actually need. That way it has a little bit room to drape over. So if water does come out or the plastic falls or something like that, it also protects the sides. And then same thing with the back. You know, this plastic is it's pretty wide when you open it up. So it'll also protect the back and the front part of all the equipment. All right, so this is 3/4 inch plywood. We cut them in two different sizes, a smaller one and a larger one. And we do that for this exact reason. So you want to be able to cover up smaller surfaces such as this. It's a warmer. If I put this plastic on there, it'll burn it up. So you put the plywood, keeps it safe. All right, I'm gonna cover this individually, but with that wood, but same thing, same situation, just a bigger surface. The reason I'm covering this individually is because if I was to try to go up and over one, I have this fire suppression right here that's in the way. So it may have a gap or something like that, allowing water to get onto it, leak into it. This is pretty expensive and I don't want to replace it. Also, whenever you come down off of this, it's gonna have a big dead area. What that's gonna do is it's gonna put tension whenever I wrap it, and then this corner right here is gonna put a hole in it, also creating another spot for it to leak. Same thing again, I'm gonna pull plastic long enough for the equipment. And a little bit more, that's perfect. A lot of the times if there's a little side table like this, it'll be filled with whatever equipment they're using. What I'll do typically is move it all off to a safe spot away from the hood. That way I can cover the side table, because as you can see here, they have stuff on the shelves and stuff like that. That's really what I'm trying to protect. If water gets on top of this, you can just wipe it off. But all these, that means they have to rewash everything in the morning. So it's more work for them. You're gonna get a complaint off that. So these sharp edges right here on top, that's gonna put a hole in the plastic as soon as I get on top to remove the filters. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a rag, fold it into quarters, and put it on the corner to prevent it from putting a hole in that plastic. All right, so now that we have our equipment covered, we're gonna go upstairs, we're gonna turn the fans off. The reason why you cover the equipment first is because whenever you turn the fans off, there's grease in the duct that could potentially start dripping down. You don't want that to drip onto the equipment, creating an unnecessary mess. All right, you guys, so now we're up on the roof. We have 5 fans we're working with. There's 4 Uplast and 1 Supreme. We're only cleaning 3 of the 5 fans though. Okay, so let me go through it real quick just to show you guys. All right, so whenever you're deciding what fan it is that you're supposed to be cleaning, you kind of have to, memorize the kitchen and kind of use that layout to decide where the fan's at. So if you remember, there's hoods in a line. There's the main hood and there's a back hood. That's where this fan comes in. And then there's also a 5th fan over here. And if you remember this, there's a little hood in the corner. That's where this fan's at. So we're not touching this fan. It's running. We're not turning it off. You don't know if they have something cooking in there that could potentially start building up smoke and stuff. Same thing with that back fan. So we're gonna focus on these 3 fans here. This fan right here, this is called the Supreme fan. This is gonna be the first hood whenever you first walk into the kitchen. First thing we're gonna do, make sure it's running good, it's not vibrating, making weird noises, stuff like that. And then we're gonna turn it off. Boom. Okay, so a lot of times these fans will have a lot of different style power switches. Sometimes they'll be like household switches. Sometimes they'll be big breaker box switches, or other times they'll be like kind of makeshift switches like that one is. This is another common switch. Just flip it just like that. Boom, it's off. It's good. Same thing with this one. Boom. It was a little tough, but it worked. Sometimes these fans will be wired reverse. So you have to notate that, remember that, and then we also put it in a report. That way we can notify the restaurant, hey, your fan's not wired correctly. It could potentially be a safety hazard. So, boom. So now that we have the fans completely turned off and everything, we're gonna open them up. And I'm gonna inspect the fan to make sure everything's good before we clean. If I notice any deficiencies in the fan, I'm gonna notate it, I'm gonna take pictures of it, and then I'm gonna let my office know. That way they can let the restaurant know, and it basically eliminates the liability off of us as a company. What you want to look for is holes in the sides of the ducts. The duct may be deteriorating down in the middle, on the bottom, or sometimes it'll have a flat spot. If it's deteriorating, that's a big red flag. You need to let them know, and they need to get that fixed as soon as possible. So we got that one done. It looks very good. So the motor itself is connected to this part right here. Sometimes inside the motor housing, it'll become loose, or the screws will wear out, fall out, and stuff like that. It'll create this whole thing to start wobbling in all different directions. If that happens, eventually what's gonna happen is it's either gonna lock up, the motor's gonna overheat, potentially causing a fire, or it's gonna cause all these fan blades to break. So what we do is we'll leave it off, we'll notify the restaurant that they need to have HVAC tech come out and service it as soon as possible. So this is a Supreme fan. These open up a little bit different. There's 2 stages to opening it up. You wanna make sure both hinge kits on these fans are good before you open it, because they're typically very, very heavy. So it has 2 hinge kits. It has 1 hinge kit right here. That's this section. So I'm gonna make sure it's connected and good, and it looks very good. It's right here. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, so you make sure both screws are intact. They're good. This is the other section. This is welded, so it's good. All right. So it has like a little key. Turn it, push down. That allows you to open. Okay, you open this. Good. Same thing. We're gonna check everything, make sure it's safe and good. All right, everything checks out good. Now that we made sure everything was good up here, we're gonna go back downstairs. We're gonna remove the filters. We're gonna show you how to wrap the hood. Then we're gonna start spraying it. Come on. All right, so now we're back inside from inspecting and turning off the fans. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna remove the baffle filters, and then I'm gonna take my pictures, and then we're gonna start wrapping the hood. So let's get that started. These filters are very easy to remove. You just simply lift up, pull out, and they come out pretty easy. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna inspect the hood for the same thing that I inspected the fans for, and see if there's any type of deficiencies, any rusting, any spots where the hood's deteriorating or something like that, or where the water can leak potentially behind the walls, causing more damage. So it looks good. The only thing that I see is, if you'll see here, this hood has been burned with chemical of some sort. I don't know if they tried to clean it or what. So that's something I'm definitely gonna take manual pictures of. I'm gonna document that and send it in with my report. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take pictures of before we clean. We use a proprietary app. It's not out to the public, but there are other apps that you can get. If anybody knows of any, please leave it in the comments below. All right, so the main focus spots on the hood are gonna be the plenum area. This is the big part, the easiest part to spray. There's gonna be the back side of the track, the upper track. Let me get my flashlight. That's this area right here. It's pretty difficult to spray, but it's possible. This is the upper track. There's the lower track. It's down in this area. We take pictures of the fire suppression system. The reason why we do this is because we want to document that it was intact or it wasn't intact whenever we started cleaning. Then there's up the duct area. So those are your hot spots. That's where you want to focus your time at. If you focus on those spots, everything will just gradually get clean. All right, so now we're gonna go to the next hood, do the same thing at the next hood. So I'm gonna go ahead and take pictures to document this hood, just like I did that hood. I also wanna go ahead and mention, anytime you're getting on top of equipment, don't try to hang on any fire suppression systems. These may seem real secured into the hood. They're actually not that secured and they break relatively easy. So yeah, we basically don't even touch them. I try to touch them very minimal. So, all right, so this is the part where the scrapers come in handy. This track is pretty nasty. This grease looks a little bit old, so I'm gonna go ahead and scrape it just to knock off all the big pieces to make sure whenever I spray it, it comes completely clean. So Austin, hand me a chisel. All right, so all you're gonna do whenever you scrape it is there's a couple areas you wanna focus on. This area right here, the bottom part, and then up against there. So the hardest parts are gonna be this area here to spray. The bottom part and this side over here is gonna be really easy to spray. If something's dirty, it's gonna be right here. As you can see, that's where it's built up right here. So we're gonna go ahead and knock that down. All right, so now that we scraped everything and we took all our pictures, we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping the hood. So what I did, basically, I went the whole length of the hood. Now I have to go the sides of the hood. There's two sides. Typically one side is an arm length. All right, so you can't forget though, there's a bar in the middle that we can't remove. So you have to pull extra for that. You're gonna have to go around that. So I like another arm length for that. Get all my plastic up on top of the equipment. That way it's out of my way when I'm going down. It's also readily available. All right, okay. This is a bucket of dirty rags. We use rags to hold the plastic up, to wedge it in there. When we get done, we recock everything. So let me go ahead and start wrapping it. Oh. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna find the edge of the plastic. You're gonna make sure you have enough plastic that it goes the whole side of that hood. You're gonna put it just a little bit, maybe ½ inch of the plastic onto the spatula. And you're gonna tuck it in there. Okay. Do the same thing with the rag. I'm gonna have to give it a little bump or so. Get it in there. You don't want to keep stuffing more and more because what will happen is you'll end up losing length on the width of the plastic, making it short, and you can't attach it to a trash can. So just the right amount. I try to keep the rags evenly spaced, and you always want to make sure you put a rag underneath the duct because that's where the most pressure is going to be at whenever somebody's spraying from the top. All right, so there's a few different methods to wrapping the hood. You can use rags, you can use clamps, suction cups, magnets, wedges. There's a lot of different ones. We choose to use rags because one, they're multi-use. We can use a rag to dry something, to shine the hood when we get done, to also wrap. The reason why we don't use magnets is because most surfaces, or the surfaces aren't consistent. So there'll be some that are magnetic and then some that aren't magnetic. So you run into that. Suction cups, the reason why we don't use those is because some areas are more greasy than others and it won't allow the suction cup to fully stay suctioned to the surface that you're trying to wrap. So we've just learned over time that rags are the most useful and multi-use tool to use for this purpose. Sometimes the gap will be real small, you can't even get a rag in there. What I'll do in that case is I'll cut a small piece of plastic and use the plastic as the part to like hold it in there too. That works as well. The reason why I wiggle the spatula out is if you pull it straight out, most of the time the rag comes out with it. So I try to slowly wiggle it out on every time, that way the rag stays stuck in there nice and secure. Okay, so this bar right here, we can't remove it. So I'm gonna show you guys how to wrap around it. So what you're gonna do is, with this plastic on this side, you're gonna tuck about that much past the bar. And then you're gonna come back with the other side and go the other way about the same amount. underneath. You're gonna tuck the plastic there. Just like that. You're gonna get a rag on this side. You're gonna get a rag and you're gonna tuck it right here in this area. That way it holds both sides of the plastic. That's a little bit wider gap, so I'm gonna fold the rag in order for it to have a nice good tension. There we go, give it a test. That's good. And then just as an extra precaution, because it opens up right here a little bit, that's where it's gonna leak at. I'm gonna get a rag and these clips that we use. I'm gonna fold the rag once, put it on the clip, and then this plastic, I'm gonna roll it together, kind of tighten it up, and I'm gonna clip it. The reason why I put a rag over the clip is so the clip doesn't tear the plastic itself. Then I'm gonna let the plastic kind of settle where it wants to. I'm gonna get another clip and clip it right here. Just try to keep that gap real tight. Boom. There we go. All right, so on the other side, I skipped the corner because it wasn't going in this easy, but you always want to put the rag on this side of the plastic. The reason for that is whenever you go to make the funnel nice and tight, this corner will put a hole in the plastic. Typically, corners are what leaks the most, so that's where you're gonna get a lot of leakage and water's gonna go everywhere. So I try to put a rag at the corner of every hood to prevent that. Boom. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and do this corner. As you can see, it's real tight. You can't even get a spatula in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tuck the plastic right here instead. Make sure it's tight right there so it doesn't leak. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna start forming the funnel to the hood. So this is a pretty long hood. We might have to run 2 trash cans. I'll show you guys how to do that, but so now we're gonna form the funnel. Whenever you're making the funnel, the edge of the plastic's right here, you almost never wanna use that edge. You just keep going, flipping the plastic with the leftovers on the outside of the plastic. It's gonna form a funnel. Now you don't wanna go too much because whenever you go to put it up, as you can see, it gets too high. That'll bubble, the whole corner will fall out. So you want it to be kind of loose when you're right here, just because whenever you go to the ceiling with it, it's gonna tighten up. It's still a little too tight. That's right about there. Okay. Okay, so it's not secured. I just have it good enough where it'll hold. So I'm gonna find the edge and I'm gonna pull it to the far side of the hood. I'm doing this in order to create tension so it creates a tighter funnel. All right, so now there's leftover plastic. Instead of using another rag, it's faster if you just use the leftover plastic. Put it in there, nice and tight. You want this to be pretty tight. The reason for that is whenever you connect the trash can, you gotta put a decent amount of pressure, otherwise the plastic will heat up as you spray it and it starts to stretch and it'll create big bubbles in the plastic, eventually tearing the plastic, making the trash can fall, or the bubble will just pop itself, so it's no good. All right, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. right, so now that we have the funnel created, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test it and figure out if I need 1 or 2 trash cans. So how you determine that is you'll come to the middle of the hood typically, and you'll try to pull the plastic together. If you can't pull it together, or if it's too long, like right here, when this heats up, it's gonna create a big bubble. So I think it's too long for my determination. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect 2 trash cans just to be safe. So how you connect the trash can is you wanna try to find a spot where it's not too far to the left or too far to the right. So sometimes it takes a couple tries. And I think that's gonna be it right there. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so this right here is also a common issue that happens because there's so much plastic that's jumbled up right here that really, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. You really have to pull that tight. That's why it's important to get that cross real tight. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that first. What I'm trying to do is eliminate, there's a pocket right here. I'm trying to eliminate how big that pocket can get. So I'm trying to cross it over and then roll it. Okay. Okay, so I'm only connecting these 2 sides. Now I'm gonna go connect the other 2 sides. The reason why you don't want to do all 4 sides right now is because if you create too much tension on one side, then you're fighting it on the other. And then it becomes off balanced and now there's a bubble somewhere. So I'm gonna do 2 sides. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do, in order to bring the plastic up evenly and where I can adjust it, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either get a strip of plastic and tuck it into the ceiling and then put a clip onto it and it'll hold it up like this, but that's non-adjustable. You can't adjust that on the fly as they're spraying, as the plastic heats up and changes the way it is. So what I typically like to do is use a 4-foot ladder. That way I can move it as they're spraying. We don't have to shut everything down just to make minor adjustments. So what I do is I press the ladder all the way up against the equipment. I get a rag. Try to find out where I want it. So you want if you have it all the way down like this, then it's just gonna be a big bubble right there. So what I do before I put a rag to it is I'll figure out about how much tension I want, and that's about it right there. What I try to do is compensate already for the plastic to heat up. So I try to make it a little tight, and then I'll put the rag over it, get the excess, put that over it, and then I use it to roll it. Just like that. Then I'll get the excess rag and flip it over. I do this in order to prevent the plastic from getting ripped. Okay, so there's a technique in order to clip the plastic. You don't want to just get the clip and clip it like that, because as you spray, tension comes into play and it just slips out. So what I do is I'll have the clip on the trash can already. So I'm opening it. It's in front of the plastic, or in front of the clip. I go around and I close it. You'll see a better shot of that right here. Same thing. Open, go in front, cross in front, back around, close it. And now it's good tension throughout everything. I always test it just to make sure that it is not easily pulled out. It doesn't fall out real easy. And that's it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover this back wall. The reason you're covering the back wall is because you're spraying with high pressure as you spray, there's gonna be a lot of overspray. So there's a lot of expensive equipment right here. You wanna protect that as best as you can. So I'm gonna get a big sheet of plastic and I'm gonna cover it all the way from there to there. All right, now that we have everything in the kitchen taken care of, we're gonna go outside. I'm gonna run through everything we have in our van, how to make chemical, how to set up the machine, and then we're gonna proceed to how to spray the fence. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one.